You don't start at a border. You start at a moment where your life stops adding up. A job that vanished. A landlord who doesn't care. A threat that isn't written down but still runs your day. A clock that feels louder than your own thoughts. That's when you begin to understand what desperation does to the brain. It turns danger into maybe. And then the first door opens. Not with a dramatic offer, with a sentence that sounds almost gentle. I know someone who can get you out. At first, it doesn't feel like crime. It feels like a shortcut through a world that stopped offering legal roads. You tell yourself you're choosing. You tell yourself you're still in control. But this system doesn't run on yes or no. It runs on leverage. And leverage begins the second you admit you're desperate. Because when profit is the point, your need becomes the product. Which means you're not treated like a person first. You're treated like something that can move.
What you think it is a service.
What it actually is a funnel that turns vulnerability into control. Level 1 starts with a recruiter. Not always someone scary. Sometimes they look like a helpful cousin, a friend of a friend, someone who understands your situation. They speak your language. They know your community. They know the exact kind of fear you don't say out loud. They don't sell you a crime. They sell you relief. They ask questions that sound like paperwork, even when there's no paper. Where are you from? Who are you traveling with? Who will answer the phone if you can't? You don't notice the trap because the questions don't feel violent. But every answer is a handle. Every detail is a future pressure point. And the recruiter's real job isn't transport. It's consent. It's getting you to say yes in a way that doesn't feel like yes. Then comes the broker. The broker is the middle layer, the calm voice that turns your fear into a schedule. They don't look like a criminal mastermind. They look like customer service with colder eyes. If you complain, they blame someone else. If you panic, they normalize it. Everyone feels that way. It's always scary at first. Just follow instructions, and your fear becomes routine. This is the moment you realize it's not one person. It's a chain. Recruiter, broker, drivers, holders, collectors. Small roles separated on purpose. So no single person sees the full picture. That separation is protection. If something breaks, the chain survives. And level 1 has one ugly psychological trick. Control doesn't arrive as violence. It arrives as help. You don't feel trapped while the offer still sounds like a rescue. You feel trapped later, when the help becomes a debt. Not just money. A debt of silence. A debt of compliance. A debt of don't cause problems. Because by now, you've told someone you're leaving. You've packed. You've sold something. You've burned a bridge. You've already crossed the first border, the one inside your mind. And by the end of level 1, you learn the first real rule. Once the system has your need, it doesn't have to convince you anymore. It only has to manage you.
What you think it is a journey.
What it actually is a pipeline built to keep you confused, dependent, and movable. Level 2 begins the first time you're told to wait. You imagine waiting means hours, but it becomes a night, then another. You're moved into a place that isn't called a prison but works like one. No time you can trust. No rules you can confirm. Doors that don't explain themselves. And this is where you learn something most outsiders never understand. Most networks don't need to hurt you to control you. They just need uncertainty. Uncertainty is cheap, and it scales. If you don't know what's happening, you stop asking. If you don't know what happens if you complain, you stop complaining. If you don't know what happens if you leave, you stop imagining leaving. Confusion becomes discipline. Then the movement starts. Usually in fragments, not one clean trip. A sequence. Short moves, long pauses. Another room, another car, another handoff, another voice that doesn't introduce itself. You notice the people moving you often don't talk much. They don't look like bosses. They look like function. Paid to complete one task and forget your face. And that's the design. Fragment the work. Limit who knows what. Keep the map at the top, because the map is power. And in a profit system, power stays protected. Then the money layer tightens, because money turns chaos into a business. Some networks use collectors. Some use guarantors. Some put pressure on your family, because your family is easier to reach than you are. Payments become deadlines. Deadlines become panic. Panic becomes obedience. And obedience becomes the product they always wanted. This is where the line can blur. At first, you're a customer. Then you're a problem. Then you're a tool. And sometimes nothing dramatic happens, but you still get controlled. Because fear touches you every hour. Your body learns a new schedule. Sleep lightly. Eat quickly. Listen for footsteps. Flinch at doors. You become a human alarm system. Not because you're weak, because your nervous system is trying to keep you alive, inside a situation that refuses to explain itself. Level 2 ends when you glimpse something that looks like success. A normal street. Normal people holding groceries. Normal traffic. And you realize your life has become a quiet, moving secret.
What you think it is the end.
What it actually is the bill. If you reach the destination, it doesn't feel like fireworks. It feels like a normal day that you're not allowed to fully join. And now the network splits into two realities. Reality A is that the network disappears. Sometimes the chain stops. The broker goes quiet. The helpers vanish. The system dissolves like fog. You keep waiting for the next call, but it never comes. And you're left with exhaustion, confusion, and a memory you can't translate. Reality B is that the bill arrives. For many, arrival is where pressure becomes personal. You're told to stay inside, to wait again, to be quiet again. And then you hear words you hoped would never follow you. Balance. Debt. Your family will pay. This is where the smuggling versus trafficking line matters in real life. Because exploitation doesn't always look like chains. Sometimes it looks like a phone call on speaker, so you can hear your family's fear. Sometimes it looks like a photo taken without permission. Proof you can be found. Sometimes it looks like a threat with no details, because your imagination supplies them. That's the ugliest truth about leverage. It doesn't need to be logical. It only needs to be believable. And fear makes unbelievable things feel certain. Now zoom out and look at the hierarchy. At the top is the organizer. You rarely see them. They don't drive. They don't wait outside doors. They don't take the first risk. Under them are coordinators, the people who keep everything moving, who solve delays, who replace a driver, who calm down a panicking customer. Under them are facilitators, the foot soldiers of logistics. And at the bottom is the traveler, the person taking the risk, the person whose body becomes the border. That's the cruel math. The people who profit most are often farthest from the danger. And the people in the most danger are the ones with the least power. Level 3 is also where the aftermath becomes real. Even if you make it, you may carry the network with you. In sleep that never fully deepens. In doors that make you flinch. In footsteps that sound too close. In silence that feels like a threat. Because when your life becomes a transaction, it's hard to feel human again. The lesson the network hates is simple. The network's greatest weapon is isolation. Not just physical isolation, social isolation. The feeling that you can't tell anyone, can't ask anyone, can't trust anyone. Because attention might destroy you. But isolation is also the first thing that breaks when safety begins. Because safety often starts the moment someone else knows the truth. This video is education and storytelling. It is not a guide, not advice, not an invitation. The final warning is simple. A way out is not automatically a safe way out. Sometimes the most dangerous thing is the first sentence that sounds like hope. Stay curious, stay careful, and don't let desperation turn danger into maybe.